Welcome back, everyone. Sheepdog Smokey here, and we have some good news out of Austin, although it was a bit unexpected for me because there's bits of this that were not public knowledge until now. Texas Senate balks at tax swap proposed by top lawmakers. Now, a bit of background on this before I start in. Governor Abbott has been adamant that he will not sign a property tax increase, period. He was looking for a sales tax increase to allow some aid to homeowners and so on. But lawmakers wouldn't do that either, and appear to have found a better way. Austin, Texas senators on Monday ripped up a plan to rely on increasing sales taxes to fund property tax relief and boost public education funding. Instead, senators favor tapping existing funds for school and tax relief, putting the chamber on a crash course with the House as Republican leaders on both sides scramble to find consensus. The Senate voted 26-2 on its plan to spend an additional $12 billion on public education and lower property taxes. The measure, a centerpiece of this year's law-writing session, would include $5,000 raises for teachers and librarians. It also calls for cutting property taxes by 10 cents per $100 in value for 2 years. We can no longer allow excuses or lowered expectations to prevail in education. It's time for us to step up, Senator Larry Taylor, Republican of Friendswood, who sponsored the bill. The 10-cent property tax cut suggested by Taylor would save the owner of a $200,000 home about $175 a year. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but $200,000 is really nothing anymore. And $175 is $175. How would the tax swap work? A trio of bills in the legislature, supported by Governor Greg Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, and House Speaker Dennis Bonnen, aim to boost funding for schools while reducing property taxes and reining in future growth. The tax swap would raise sales taxes by 1 percentage point to 9.25% for most Texans, the highest rate in the country, while cutting property taxes by up to 15 cents for every $100 in value. Renters are one group that may only see a net tax increase from the swap unless landlords pass the property tax savings on by reducing rents. Another bill would cap what cities and counties can raise in property taxes each year without first seeking a vote from residents. The measure would lower the cap to 3.5% from 8%. Local school districts, meanwhile, would also be limited in what they could raise each year. Those provisions would slow the future escalation of property taxes, supporters of the bill say. Cities and counties protesting the legislation say funding for police, firefighters, and other city services would suffer. A third bill would boost education funding by raising teachers' salaries and increasing per-pupil state spending. While the Senate balked at the sales tax increase, Taylor said the option is still certainly in play to fund the reforms. Lawmakers will meet in a conference committee to iron out differences between proposals in the House and Senate, including how much of a raise to give teachers next school year. The legislature is required to adjourn May 27th. We're not worlds apart, Taylor said. I wouldn't say it's downhill from here, but our chances look a lot better. The Senate vote reflects the uneasiness in the legislature about the sales tax hike and corresponding cut in property taxes first pitched by Governor Greg Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, and House Speaker Dennis Bonnen, all Republicans who have made school funding and property tax relief top priorities. The House is expected to vote Tuesday on the tax swap plan, which would raise the sales tax by 1 percentage point, putting Texas in a tie with California for the highest sales tax in the nation at 7.25%. Combined with local option sales taxes, the increase would mean most Texans would pay 9.25%. On Friday, Governor Abbott and Bonnen defended their plan to raise the sales tax and suggested they will have the votes to do so. Democrats and some Republicans have scoffed at the tax swap, which is considered risky for Republicans, who are trying to maintain their majority in the House. Democrats need to win 9 Republican seats in the 2020 election to take control of the chamber. Seniors living on fixed incomes, families already struggling to buy clothes for their growing children, and college students working multiple jobs cannot afford yet another tax hike from Texas Republicans, said Brittany Schweitzer, spokeswoman for the Texas Democratic Party. Raising the sales tax remains dead wrong. As approved by the Senate, the plan would cost about $12 billion, said Taylor. In addition to about $9 billion agreed upon by the House, the bill would redirect the money from two existing taxes to make up the difference and fund property tax relief. The state would use $2.3 billion collected annually on oil and gas to lower property taxes, redirecting money that would otherwise be saved in the state's rainy day account. The state would also dedicate an estimated $300 million a year in online sales taxes not currently collected and spend up to another $300 million a year in revenues from property managed by the Permanent School Fund. Now, I will tell you, I'm not 100% on board with either one of these. Okay, I definitely prefer the use of existing funds. But we've already had a hurricane in the last, little over a year. And the rainy day fund comes in extremely handy because all of a sudden you're calling up National Guard that are no longer being paid for 1 week in a month, 2 weeks in the summer, but long weeks, and they're being paid at full-time military pay for their grade. You have things like roads and such that need to be fixed. And while within cities, it is generally the city that will fix the roads, with major interstates, 35, 45, 10, I-20, I-30, and so on, those are typically done by the state because I-35 quite literally runs the entire length of Texas. So does 20, although it splits and splits into 20 and 30. But we have these massive highways that are in dire need of repair. I can tell you, being one of those people struggling to make ends meet, I am a single man helping my parents raise my nephew. There are times when we need to do things to their land that cost money, and I help where I can. I would not be railing or even really complaining at a 1% increase in sales tax because there are going to be other things that I can happily give up. You see, I don't need to rent as many movies. I don't need to buy as many sodas or popcorn or other things. So I'm going to be buying my necessities the same as I'm buying them now. I'm not going to have as much junk food around my house, although there are a couple of things I actually consider junk food that aren't, and they're not taxed. Pardon me. But I'm not going to suffer. Okay? These struggling families, they're not paying taxes on their food. This is something people leave out. Milk, bread, breakfast cereals, meat, all these kind of things. Anything deemed necessities. Now, of course, that's not Gatorades or Dr. Peppers or candy bars. But groceries that are not deemed junk food are not taxed. And you can feed a family of 5 pretty cheaply. My parents did it for years. Still do in many days. I can personally tell you that we've had both of my siblings, all 3 of us, both my nephews, my niece, that's 6. My parents is 8. My brother-in-law is 9. My brother is 10. So we've had 10 people that my parents cook for. I can guarantee you they fed 10 people for under $40. And not a single item on that table was taxed. So I would honestly not be upset with a 1% sales tax. And there's another big reason for that. We do not have a state income tax. And Governor Abbott has said, as long as he is in the governor's mansion, we will not have a state income tax. I suppose the only way I would not be upset with him if he went back on that is if the so-called state income tax was actually the new federal, because the Democrats had managed to cheat their way back into power, and Texas said, we're gone. I don't know that will ever happen in my lifetime, but 9.25%, that's 9.25 cents on the dollar, not a lot. If you're buying, honestly, if I buy groceries and I spend $200 for, a big shop, I might pay tax on $30 worth of it. So that's about $3. It's a little under $3 in tax. I'm not going to be upset at that, folks. I honestly hope they can come up with a way that will work. One thing that was not addressed in here is the PUF fund, Public Utilities Fund. Yes, there's a superfluous F. But this is really, it's almost completely spindle top. There's a lot of oil under Texas. And if we started drilling, yeah, the price of oil would go down, but we'd be making more money than we're making now. And I don't know that UT and A&M need to be the only people benefiting from the PUF fund anymore. So I might just write my governor about that. But I've talked about it long enough. Let me know what you think. As always, remember, stay civil. We do not learn from arguments. We learn from debate. Also, remember, please do like, comment on, and share this video, as well as subscribe and activate notifications so that you're among the first to know of any new content as it is posted. Until next time, everyone have a wonderful day.